Not only was Jim Jones deceived, but he was also televised. One minute he was sitting in court like a king, and the next Cameron hit play on a USB. And that was Chrissy in a hotel room wearing heels and a hoodie, laughing and whispering the words, "Jim, you still don't know. Let him stay stupid. Have you ever seen a man's heart leave his body?" Jim remained mute, didn't blink, didn't breathe, and simply stared at the screen as if it were the burial of his sanity. The courtroom was still, and Mama Jones froze Cameron, grinning as if he had been waiting 10 years for this. This wasn't a coincidence. It was a powerful and heartfelt performance. And Chrissy understood that now that the camera was rolling. We want to know how many more clips Cam has. Was this a long-term scam, or was it love? How do you rebuild when everyone watched your life fall apart in 4K? Jim Jones won't be returning after this. Began with a USB and ended with Jim Jones folded in a courtroom chair, his hands shaking. The video showed Chrissy at 9:13 p.m. pulling a hoodie over her head outside the Maran Hotel in Soho, looking side to side as if the city was moving. It wasn't grainy, it wasn't a maybe that's her moment. It was clear, crisp, and time-stamped. And it was shot as if someone knew it would eventually end up in court. The man who opened the door, who wasn't Jim, was Reggie. Fans had been speculating about this man for months. He was connected to a muffled jail call, and Chrissy had sworn that he was just a friend. But this video was complete betrayal in high definition. The moment Cameron, you could feel the energy change when you handed that USB to the court clerk. The room grew cold, and Jim sat up straighter as if he already knew something. However, knowing and seeing are two different types of pain, because Chrissy turned back toward the hallway and whispered into her phone as soon as she entered the hotel room. Jim sat like his skeleton had melted. No words, no outburst, just silence. Eyes glassy, over breathing. "Jim still thinks I'm at Mayans." The courtroom cracked, not with sound, but with tension. Cam leaned back in his chair like a man who had been waiting 10 years for karma to cash the check. A collapse, with one hand on his chest and one arm hanging off the chair. The courtroom then erupted, with bailiffs rushing in, EMTs being called. Chrissy sitting still as if she was watching a scene she had seen 100 times. And Cam not blinking, flinching, or moving, and that was only the first 37 seconds of that clip, because of what happened next. The lies, the silence, and the redoordy narrative that was created for reality TV were undone. The video cuts to the inside of the room, where a playlist and 2 glasses of wine are playing on the speaker. The music is slow, sensual, and deliberate. And Chrissy is laughing and saying in a low voice, "This is where I breathe, ... with you." I don't feel that statement struck a chord because, according to insiders, Jim was on 3 different podcasts last year, calling Chrissy his oxygen on day 1 and the reason he survived. Now, he's hearing her say she felt dead inside with him. Although Chrissy was aware of the Camara, the suite belonged to a friend of Reggie's, who always recorded things for safety. She was surprised that Cameron would end up with the footage. It's still unclear how he obtained it. Some claim Cam had someone inside, while others think Reggie lost it after Chrissy abandoned him last month, found the one piece of evidence that no one believed to exist. And it wasn't just any proof either. It was unquestionably scandalous and emotionally devastating. According to court documents, Cam filed the USB as part of a defamation countersuit against Jim, alleging that Jim attempted to slander his name during a 2022 VH1 production meeting. However, legal beef or Cam didn't just serve it cold. He did it in front of Jim's mother because, yes, Mama Jones was in court. When Jim hit the ground, she got up so quickly that security believed she was going to attack Chrissy. "You lied to my son. You used him," she yelled, before being escorted out of TMZ, heard her shouting into her phone while pacing the sidewalk. "This is why I never trusted that woman. I told Jim day 1 she'd ruin him." Meanwhile, The judge had to halt the trial for an entire hour while EMTs checked Jim's vitals and determined he hadn't experienced a heart attack. Only a collapse brought on by trauma. The internet went crazy. In music seconds after Cameron revealed Niamh Jones' collapse in a Chrissy hotel movie. Within 20 minutes of the leak, all of the memes went viral, including one that featured Jim's face on a mattress with the phrase, "Bro, got folded like the sheets Chrissy left in." Same hotel, another Cameron grinning like Thanos while holding the USB and the final Infinity Stone. However, this wasn't just a Twitter roasting because the DA halted the trial once more and drew the judge aside as the court resumed and the entire 4-minute clip played. The court was already looking into Chrissy's involvement in a closed charity fraud case. So the reason is that the video wasn't only proof of infidelity. It also allegedly showed potential obstruction of justice. In the hotel recording, she mentions, "Reggie helped me clean that mess up. I told them it was a donation." As the judge called recess, Cam got up, looked straight at Jim, and said, "I told you she wasn't loyal. I just gave you what you needed to heal." Translation: new charges could be coming, and what began as a reality TV heartbreak has now turned into a possible federal case. Jim didn't respond, didn't move, just stared ahead like the whole world had turned into static. And Chrissy, she leaned over to her attorney and whispered something. According to A, she said, "Tell the judge I was intoxicated." That clips out all context. It was a 4K multi-angle video with audio. But we're only getting started because Cam's legal team says they'll be submitting 2 more clips and a leaked voicemail from Chrissy to Mona Scott when the court resumes next week. If even half of the rumors about that call are accurate, Jim Jones won't be the only one who loses everything. When recess ended, the courtroom was still bustling, but no one was prepared for what was about to happen because, as everyone was gasping for air from the hotel tape, Cameron's lawyer got up and said 7 words that stopped the judge in his tracks. "We have more footage, and this is a voicemail left by Ms. Chrissy." You could hear the rumors circulating through the crowd like a tsunami of suspicion. Chrissy went pale. Jim didn't even look up, and Mama Jones had to be physically restrained from returning to the courtroom. The judge leaned forward and asked for clarification. And Cam's lawyer calmed down. 3 weeks before the tape was recorded, Lampkin was on Mona Scott Young's phone. Suddenly, this wasn't just a cheating scandal. It was about to turn into a conspiracy that would end the franchise. The clerk played the voicemail, and 10 seconds later, jaws dropped Chrissy's voice. Crystal clear, Mona. I told you that if Jim finds out the entire season's judge stopped the recording. Chrissy's attorney got up and frantically objected. But it was too late. Ruined Cam can't know either. He'll use it, ... I need you to handle that room footage. Reggie swore it was wiped. You promised. Handle the footage. Tell Mona to bury it and call it season ruining. Had heard enough, and Cam was no longer even grinning. He was locked in because that voicemail not only demonstrated that Chrissy had... This implied a cover-up, manipulation, and possibly meddling. In an ongoing, even the Baifs appeared shaken at this point. And Jim finally raised his head, his eyes hollow, and stared straight at Chrissy as if he had forgotten who she was. As if the woman he had purchased rings for, wept over on red carpets, and battled producers to defend had never even existed. Then the second tape began. This one wasn't taken at the hotel. Rather, it was taken inside a trailer on the set of Love and Hip Hop New York, which had been secretly leaked months earlier by an unidentified crew member. The video showed Chrissy conversing with Yandi behind the scenes on what was meant to be a relaxing day. But as Chrissy put it, I'm not that clip struck a different chord because the audience wasn't just watching infidelity anymore. They were watching war. I know Jim is loyal, but loyalty doesn't fix boredom. Reggie makes me feel something, and Mona knows that if this leaks, I'm out. Yandi's reply, girl, you're playing with fire. You know Cam hates him. You get caught. It's not just a scandal. It's war. It's the entire Chrissy and Jim romance. 4. example was a staged brand rather than a genuine bond. And it made Mona look bad because the producers had known about it months earlier and had still filmed the engagement special and promoted the forever love angle. What else had they staged? By this point, social media was in a complete meltdown. Blogs were burning and fans were furious. "That woman ruined my son's life. She's a snake and I want VH1 to burn with her," she screamed as she stormed into the hallway outside the court, where TMZ cameras were waiting while Chrissy's name was trending alongside liability setup, Queen, Judas, and Mama Jones. Security tried to stop her, but the damage was done. The footage went viral in minutes. One TikTok fan stitched the hotel clip with Mama Jones's rant and captioned it, "When your mom was right the whole time." However, following the audio in the second tape, things became more gloomy back in court. This is an email sent from Chrissy's account requesting footage deletion from a private server tied to Mona Scott's media cloud. Cam's attorney said as he stood up once more, "It's time," carrying a printed email, a screenshot, and a paper trail. The room went silent again. The judge read the email. In it, Chrissy allegedly wrote, "I need that room wiped by Monday, ... If Jim won't recover, neither will the show. Tell Reggie to keep his mouth shut." Chrissy's hands began to shake. This was manipulation, not just cheating, and it was a media sensation. "Is job gone wrong?" Jim got up, trembling, and asked Chrissy a single question. "Was any of this real?" Chrissy's lips quivered, and she looked down. But the silence was louder than any confession because, had she said yes, perhaps something would have remained, but that silence was Cameron's response. The judge halted proceedings once more, not because of pandemonium, but because VH1's legal team abruptly asked to address the court. That's right, the network was now involved. He hadn't flinched, he had already won. It wasn't just retaliation. It was surgical disassembly. A man in a gray outfit is their representative. "We think some of this footage was illegally obtained, and its release may violate confidentiality clauses within existing contracts," he said, perspiring through his collar. Translation: Cam had blown apart their golden pair, and they were in a panic. Proved the entire love story was a ticking time bomb and exposed producer manipulation. But the judge wasn't interested in preserving TV deals. He addressed Chrissy directly. "Did you try to obstruct this court's investigation by using misdirection or media suppression?" "I didn't mean for it to go this far," Chrissy stammered as her lawyer objected. The judge continued, and her voice broke. "I was afraid, but afraid of what? Of losing Jim? Of being exposed? Of watching the lie unravel?" Too late now, because the court had one more surprise. A text log from Reggie leaked. Cam's team subpoenaed a burner phone, and in it, Reggie wrote, "To a friend, she played me too. She said she'd leave him. Now I'm the villain, and Cam got the drop. I should have, she pleaded with me not to, so there were more." At the end of the day, Jim left the courtroom looking like a ghost. Chrissy by his side, Mona, and security were all gone, leaving just him. The world watched live as a reporter asked Cam one last question. "Do you think Jim deserved this?" Cam looked into the lens and replied no. However, sometimes the truth doesn't care who it breaks. And he left because only one man emerged from the courtroom unbeaten in this game of love, loyalty, and cameras. And the worst part is that it's not even over yet. By the following morning, the video had already appeared on every screen in America. Clips had been stitched, remixed, and slowed down, combined with depressing music, and quickly became memes. Before Chrissy could reach for her publicist, Jim Jones's face, that frozen expression of betrayal, had become a symbol of shame as well as sadness. Although fans were split on the internet, it was evident that no one was buying the misunderstanding angle. People were retrieving old interviews, tweets, and scenes from previous seasons to rewatch the love story with fresh eyes and spot the warning signs in high definition. One clip even reappeared. "You love the and now that" quote was on t-shirts. But the court wasn't even close because the legal mess was louder than the emotional devastation. VH1's internal emails were abruptly subpoenaed after Cameron's legal team filed an emergency motion. Why? Because Reggie was the man Chrissy was sneaking off with used to work on post-production. And guess who approved the video edits for the Chrissy and Jim spinoff? Yes, Reggie. That led to a massive fraud investigation as to whether producers manipulated footage and changed storylines to maintain a brand that isn't just shady. The production was temporarily shut down, and Mona Scott-Young unfollowed Chrissy. In the middle of the hunt, it's when Mona abandons the script. But this is where things reached a level no one anticipated. Jim Jones' lawyer filed a motion. Let that sink in. Jim was now legally turning against Chrissy after years of being her partner, her defender, and her man. The documents weren't light either. They included canceled appearances, lost brand deals, and most damning of all, unreleased footage that Jim had agreed to footage for a Netflix documentary series that was never aired due to the incident. Estimated loss $2, $3 million, and it doesn't include what happened next. When Chrissy's own ex appeared out of nowhere. Marcus, a man who was purportedly involved with her in the past, made an exclusive with a gossip website stating in one instance, Chrissy allegedly said, "Jim's career is cute, but I'm trying to build mine." Q internet combustion blogs ran wild. In another, Chrissy the architect began trending, and Cam was just warming up. Chrissy always had a backup plan, and Jim was never the end game. Instead, he was the exposure. He even displayed texts and voicemails. Since the court was considering motions and sealing evidence, Cameron released a 30-second preview for the documentary on Instagram with the tagline, "You saw the courtroom. Now see the truth. ... Coming soon." Chrissy's voice was displayed on a blank screen during the teaser, murmuring, "If this gets out, Jim's going to leave me. Don't let Cam find out." Then boom, cut to Cameron's face saying, "I found out." Jim didn't leave a remark on the video, which received 5 million views in 4 hours, but his mother did. In the evening, Mama Jones paced her living room while speaking live, fighting back tears and anger. "You broke my son. You broke me. Chrissy, you were family. I called you daughter. Now look what you did. You let the devil in, and he wore a pink coat. That wasn't just a shade. That was war." Chrissy went silent, making no statement, apologizing, and posting only one Instagram story with a black background and white letters. Sometimes the only response they deserve is silence, and it's too late. Since the judge was no longer in mediator mode by the time the court resumed on day 4, he was furious because more information had emerged, this time from an unexpected source. Olivia Longo, a former cast member. Sworn statement was submitted by a member, former singer, a longtime silent observer who said she saw Chrissy and Reggie together in a hotel lobby in 2022, holding hands and arguing about keeping quiet. She said Chrissy said to her, quote, "I'm only doing what Mona won't." Jim's too blind to see, "I'm not built for VH1" attempted to prevent the footage from airing any further, sent letters to bloggers, attempted to remove YouTube breakdowns, and even filed temporary injunctions to block the documentary that Cameron teased. However, the internet doesn't forget, and Cam wasn't afraid, so he went ahead. That wasn't just betrayal, it was premeditated fraud. Live, grinning, drinking, and saying, "Let them try." The truth has already been revealed. This isn't their story anymore. It's mine. Jim, meanwhile, quit attending court because he couldn't handle it, not because he didn't care. However, his team issued a brief statement stating that Mr. Jones is concentrating on his mental health and requests privacy during this time. Suddenly, the victim and the villain switched roles, with Jim going from rapper to wreck and Chrissy going from fiancé to defendant. Now that the series has been canceled, the legal battles are raging and the fans are demanding accountability. But one thing is for sure, This scandal shattered a brand, exposed a franchise, and revealed what truly occurs when love turns into a commodity and loyalty into leverage. One fan wrote on Twitter, "It's the best. Love and hip-hop were never real, but this pain, this fallout. This silence, it's more authentic than anything that was ever shown." They're correct, because only the actual damage, the type that doesn't go away in the following episode, doesn't. Cut to commercials, and plays repeatedly remains after the smoke clears and the editing stops. Again, whenever someone uploads a video of Chrissy's hotel to YouTube, we ask, was it worth it? The hotel secret, the camera lies, and the career crushed under the weight of betrayal for Jim, that response keeps repeating in his silence. And for Chrissy, it's already written in the footage, because no matter how hard they try to hide it or rewrite it, it's already there. Now that the mask is off, the cameras are off, and the truth is completely visible, what will happen next? Will Jim Jones leave behind all the fame, the hurt, and the betrayal, and eventually begin to heal on his own terms? Will Chrissy disappear into silence, hoping that time will do the healing? The entire world witnessed it. One thing is certain, just another love and hip-hop moment. Rather, it was a full-blown takedown, with a reality TV empire collapsing under the weight of accusations. What apologies can Cameron and I make? Is this a one-time vengeance drop, or does he have more in the vault? Because let's be honest, if this was just one clip, what else is hiding in those files? Here's what you need to do. Let us know what you think, who you believe, who you blame, and most importantly, who's next. If this story has taught us anything, it's that no one is safe when the truth starts to leak. Make sure you hit the like button if you agree. Receipts, secrets, and a USB stick that caused more damage than 1,000 fists ever could. Head riveted. Subscribe to avoid missing the next shocking revelation. Trust me, it's on the way. Notifications due to the actual drama never longer occurs on television. Instead, it occurs, the truth doesn't get through here. Edit it out, this is only the start. Additionally, if you're still seeing, you're already included in the narrative.